As we head into the month of December, the NFL draft rankings are currently coming into form. Right now, we have a defensive back, hybrid edge player, and a pure pass rusher, all making legitimate cases to be that top player in the 2026 NFL draft. And on top of that, we've got at least 3 quarterbacks, any of whom could go in the top 5 or even number 1 overall, depending on what team is picking at the top of the draft order or what teams are picking at the top of the draft order. All 3 of these names could also choose to not enter the NFL draft. And that kind of uncertainty could create real chaos in this draft class that desperately needs a few of these names to actually commit to being in this draft. Now, obviously, everything begins and ends with the quarterback position. And with that being said, we still have a long ways to go, even though we are approaching the month of December. Now, before we get started, I do want to remind you to check out our NFL Draft Big Board. It's over on our website, footballscout365.com. You can find that and all of our written NFL draft profiles for the top prospects, some of the sleeper prospects as well. Once again, you can find that on our website, footballscout365.com. Now, before we dive into the quarterback situation fully here, I do want to give you my top 3 prospects as of today. Now, not much has changed at the top of the draft board. We still have Caleb Downs as a top prospect. We've got Rueben Bain Jr. in that top 3, but we have a new entrant in there, a linebacker hybrid, Arvell Reese from Ohio State. He is in the top 3 prospects. In fact, I have Caleb Downs followed by Arvell Reese at the top of the draft order, and then Rueben Bain Jr. as the number 3 prospect in the 2026 NFL draft currently. Now, the reason that I still have Downs as the number 1 overall prospect, while a lot of people are moving, Rueben Bain Jr. to the top, Arvell Reese to the top, the reason is he grades as one of the top 5 prospects of the last 4 years in terms of how we grade things internally. Now, obviously, his versatility is elite. And when we talk versatility, obviously, Arvell Reese checks that box as well. And that versatility is exactly why so many evaluators have Arvell Reese at the top of their draft board. But Caleb Downs, in my opinion, he's the most dynamic player in this draft class, just in a different way, obviously, than Arvell Reese. Arvell Reese, he's generating a pass rush, which is very, very important at the NFL level. But so is coverage down the field. And having that coverage versatility on the back end, a guy who can, play in the slot on one play, a line near the box and stop the run on the next play, or play that deep third safety in the middle of the field, or post safety when you're in man-to-man coverage. That is absolutely valuable at the NFL level. And in my opinion, it's just as valuable as having a pass rush, because when you have great coverage on the back end, a player on the back end like that can be an eraser, that is just as important as having an elite pass rusher, because having great coverage can also create pass rush as well. So I think it's 1A and 1B when it comes to Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese in this draft class. I think it's going to be eye of the beholder. I think it's going to be a case of team need at, whoever is picking where in that top 5. I believe that's where one of those 2 players will land. Obviously, the quarterback situation is going to dictate a lot of how that goes in the 2026 NFL draft. But I do think Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, Rueben Bain Jr. are all going to go in the top 5 of this draft class. So we'll see how it all shakes out. So getting back to the quarterback discussion here, Fernando Mendoza, he's going to remain the QB1. And in my opinion, he's continuing to separate himself from the pack. He is followed by Simpson from Alabama. A lot of people have Simpson at the top of the draft board. There's a lot of back and forth among the scouting community out there. Both Fernando Mendoza, Simpson, excellent football players, great decision makers. I feel like there's just something about Fernando Mendoza at the end of the day. The guy is just an absolute gamer. You go back to that Penn State game, that final drive of the game, just the way that he marched down the field to help his team win in Happy Valley in a hostile environment. I don't care what people say about Penn State, what the record is. Obviously, they're not, as great a team as they were being, sold as at the start of the season. But you got to remember, this is a very highly recruited football team in Penn State. There's a lot of 4 and 5 stars on that roster still. And that is a hostile environment with, 107,000 people. And they thought that they were going to win that game. And Fernando Mendoza took that away from them. So you go back to that one moment and you can just see there's just something about him and the killer instinct that this guy has. that could absolutely make him special at the next level. And the decision making is there as well. And then you got Ty Simpson, just an excellent thrower of the football, obviously. I feel like he's more in the Mac Jones kind of mold in terms of arm talent, but the ability to throw the football, the decision making, it's all there. In terms of what translates to the NFL, the anticipatory throwing, you see him hitting hole shots and different things of that nature. He doesn't make mistakes. I mean, the guy is in full control and in full command of that offense currently at Alabama. So we'll kind of see how it shakes out as we go through the month of December, the college football playoff and all of that, and see how these guys perform on that stage as well. But at the end of the day, once again, it's Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson. Now, the QB3 in this class is a guy that some people believe is the QB1 as well, and that's Dante Moore from Oregon. Now, I've seen him, doing a lot of the same things that I just talked about, going out, winning in tough environments, leading his team on a game-winning drive. We've seen that from Dante Moore as well. I think that the big thing for him is experience. I think that, we can say that about any of the top quarterbacks in this draft class, actually. I do think Dante Moore is a guy leaning closer to staying in school for one more year. I think he has a lot more to gain. I believe his arm talent is absolutely the best in this particular draft class if he were to enter. At the end of the day, if we can get all three of these guys into this draft class, that's going to be big. It doesn't really match up fully to the 2024 NFL draft class, but I do think all three of these guys have the potential to be high-level NFL starters when all is said and done. Now, another name out there that if he were to enter this draft class is LaNorris Sellers. He was a very popular name during the summer scouting period. There were people that have had him or still have him potentially as their QB1. There's a lot of people placing blame on South Carolina's coaching staff for him not developing. But at the end of the day, the rumor out there for LaNorris Sellers is that he's potentially going to stay in school. And if he stays in school, he's going to transfer. So I think for him, it's development, it's experience. And I think we can say that about every single quarterback, as I already mentioned in this draft class. But in terms of the arm talent, the arm strength, the athleticism, all the things you're looking for at the quarterback position, the football IQ is there for him as well. I think that one of the things with him this year when you're watching his tape is he's late on throws. The decision-making is not fully there. He's not fully confident in the offense that he's playing in. So again, I think a change of scenery could absolutely elevate him for the 2027 NFL draft class. So we'll see, as I already mentioned, we'll kind of see how things play out for LaNorris Sellers. The two names that could benefit the most from something like that are Garrett Nussmeier and Carson Beck. Now, Garrett Nussmeier was considered a QB1 potential prospect during the summer scouting period. He started the season pretty strong. Obviously, what's going on with LSU, Brian Kelly got fired and all that. It slowed his progression as a player, I believe, this season. I think there was just a lack of confidence as the season moved along. And here we are with Garrett Nussmeier currently. I still think that he's a day two prospect. I think he's got the talent. I think the anticipatory throwing is there. You've seen it on tape a year ago. You've seen him, really step in and replace Jaden Daniels and at a high level a lot of times a season ago, by the way. But at the end of the day, I think Garrett Nussmeier has a lot to gain in terms of if a few of these names decide not to enter early into the NFL draft class. And then Carson Beck, a guy a couple years ago, people during the summer scouting period, once again, the early scouting, believed could be a guy who could take that next step and be a QB1. Those are two names that could absolutely benefit from that. And then you've got Oklahoma's John Mateer, obviously, the Washington State transfer. He did, battle through some injury this year. He showed some stuff on tape, a little Baker Mayfield-ish out there, but not quite to that level. He's a guy who still has eligibility to stay in school as well. Another name that's really ascending, if he were to decide to enter into the 2026 NFL draft, is USC's Jordan Mailata. Now, when you watch his tape, he's a big play hunter. This is a guy looking to make plays down the field. He still has some development out there. So again, that's a name to keep an eye on as we kind of move forward. And again, there's some big football games for him to play in here to where he could, potentially go on a run here where his draft stock elevates, the conversation starts to center around him a little bit more. So we'll see how it plays out, especially if USC can make their way into the college football playoff. Okay, so in terms of the running back class, it's a little bit lighter, obviously, than usual. It's not a great class, but we do have an elite player at the top. Obviously, he's been the number one running back on everybody's draft board since the summer period, probably since, last season, everybody talking about this year's draft class. It's Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. Now, he is a versatile 3-down back. This is a dude, you can see it on tape. He can run with power on one play. He can break a 90-yard run on the next play. This is a former track star. I think like a 10-second 100-meter guy coming out of high school. This is a dude that, you can place him into the same tier in terms of grading as, your Jahmyr Gibbs coming into the NFL draft, your Bijan Robinsons of the world, even your Saquon Barkleys of the world. At the end of the day, the 3-down versatility and all of that, this is why this guy is top 5 on a lot of NFL draft boards. He's in my top 10 currently, and he's going to remain in the top 10 as we move forward, but he is the RB1 in the 2026 NFL draft. And then he is followed by Michigan's Justice Haynes for that number 2 spot. There's a lot of people arguing that the teammate of Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, could be that RB2 out there. And I'm not really going to argue with people too much about that. I really love Jadarian Price's game. He too is a guy who has very underrated 3-down versatility, playing behind the number 1 running back in this draft class. So you could see it go either way. Justice Haynes as well is a very exceptional player, obviously. He's got the breakaway speed. You've seen it at Michigan. He can run with power. He is banged up right now. He's not expected to potentially play at all the rest of this season unless Michigan makes the college football playoff, is the rumor. But at the end of the day, he's got the 3-down versatility as well. So you've got at least 3 running backs that you could consider high-level players, 1 elite running back and 2 very high-level potential starters at the NFL level at the running back position. Now, another name that scouts are in love with out there at the running back position is Washington's Jonah Coleman. He's a big bowling ball style runner at 5'9", 230. I'm going to be diving a little bit more into his tape as we move forward, but there's a couple more names out there that I'm going to dive into, do a little bit more of a deep dive on. Now, the wide receiver class, it's deep, it's explosive, it's very talented. It is led by Arizona State wide receiver Jordan Tyson. He is my current wide receiver 1 right now. He's followed closely by Ohio State's Carnell Tate and USC wide receiver Makai Lemon. Now, I'm really warming up to Makai Lemon, by the way. He could actually surpass Carnell Tate if Tate decides to shut it down, as the rumors are starting to, kind of unfold that Carnell Tate might not play the rest of the 2025 season, or at least he might miss the next couple of weeks, even the Ohio State-Michigan game. So we'll kind of see what's going on there. I'm not fully in the know of what's going on with him injury-wise, but that is the current rumor coming out of Columbus. Overall, Malachi Lemon, he's got that Jackson Smith and Jigba type of polish. He's smooth, he's reliable. He models his game, by the way, after former USC wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. And you can see some of that Golden Tate ability also in his game when he attacks the football. I just love everything that you see on tape. He's in that mold of the uncoverable receivers that you do have to pay extra attention to. So really love Malachi Lemon in this draft class. Now, another name to talk about out there is Washington's Denzel Boston. Now, this is a guy that some people have as their wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. I like him a lot. He's 6'4", 210. He fits that traditional wide receiver profile with strong contested catchability. His stock has dipped a little bit behind some of those other names that I talked about, but make no mistake, he's a very talented pass catcher, and I expect him to go in round 1 of the 2026 NFL draft as well. Louisville's Chris Bell. This is a guy that I just did a video on where I talked about him being kind of a Deebo Samuel style player. He's got a little bit of A.J. Brown after the catch as well. Big bodied, physical, dangerous after the catch type of player. He's able to align all over the formation, by the way, so he's a bit of a matchup nightmare. One more name that I'm very high on is Indiana's Omar Cooper Jr. He is an absolute playmaker. He's also in that JSN-like kind of body style, for example, and play style. He's got the body control, the yards after catch ability. When Indiana needs a play, Fernando Mendoza is looking for Omar Cooper Jr. If you remember the Penn State game, obviously the game-winning touchdown catch. He also had another catch on that drive to move the chains. Very critical for him as well. And he's done it in other games making plays down the field, making plays at the intermediate level. He's a 3-level threat, just like Mekhi Lemon is. Carnell Tate's a 3-level threat. Obviously, Jordan Tyson, a 3-level threat. That's all 3 of these players have that after catch ability from anywhere on the field. They can just take it the distance. Now, at the tight end position, this group's not going to be as ballyhooed, so to speak, as the 2025 NFL draft class. It is led by Oregon's Kenyon Sadiq. He gets the most attention at the position. Now, he's a complete tight end, in my opinion. He's reliable in the passing game. He's functional as an inline blocker playing the tight end position, and that's something that you want at the NFL level. At the end of the day, you want a guy who can align inline, a guy who can move out to the slot, flex out wide, whatever you need to get a matchup. This guy can absolutely do it. He's a good route runner at the tight end position for a guy of his size. At the end of the day, he is the tight end 1 on our NFL draft board and almost everyone else out there. So it's pretty consensus right there. There's Michael Trigg from Baylor. He's a long, athletic player. He's like 6'5", 230 pounds, 240 pounds, long, athletic, big catch radius, by the way. That is a guy to keep an eye on as well. Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, true move tight end, by the way, very versatile. He's become more underrated as the year has kind of gone along. I think Kenyon Sadiq being that name that's talked about the most. People are really overlooking the ability of Eli Stowers, who started out as tight end 1 on most people's draft boards back in the summer. Now, a few additional names out there that you might hear about as we kind of move forward here throughout the NFL draft process. Marlon Klein from Michigan. He's got a lot of developmental upside to him. I think that, he's probably the best inline blocker in my opinion. And then you've got a couple of Georgia tight ends who knew, right? Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky. Those are 2 names to keep an eye on as well. Both are good receivers, good blockers. So pay attention to those 2 names as we kind of move forward. A sleeper that I'm watching closely, not necessarily a sleeper in the scouting world, but Tanner Koziol, formerly from Ball State, now at Houston. This guy's 6'7", 240 pounds. He's exactly the type of player who could surge during the All-Star process, the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl, or whatever, as we move through the NFL scouting combine process, for example. So keep an eye out for him. Now, in terms of the offensive line, the offensive tackle class, it's not great. There's a lot of versatility, though, in this offensive tackle class. A lot of guys who can flex into the right tackle spot, maybe develop into a left tackle in the future. There's a lot of offensive line versatility in this class, guys who can move from tackle to guard, for example. So I am impressed with that aspect of this class, but it's not going to be an elite left tackle class, which that's what everybody's looking for, is that elite left tackle. But overall, Spencer Fano from Utah, he's my top offensive tackle in this particular class. He is followed by Francis Mauaga from Miami, a guy who a lot of people are slotting in as an interior offensive lineman. I still have him as a tackle. I think he's going to, slot in as either a guard or a right tackle at the NFL level. But I mean, he is an absolute mauler, by the way, especially in the run game. That is a day 1 starter, in my opinion, both him and Fano. So again, another Utah guy, Caleb Lomu, is up there in the top 15 of my rankings currently. So keep an eye on all 3 of those names at the tackle spot in the 2026 NFL draft. There's plenty of interior offensive line depth out there as well. You're going to see a lot of day 2 and day 3 guys for interior offensive line per usual. Not anybody, in my opinion, unless you're considering Francis Mauaga to be that guy slotting in as like a right guard or a left guard at the NFL level as an interior offensive lineman that will go in the first round of the 2026 NFL draft. But we'll see how it all, pans out once we get there. But as of right now, the offensive line class, not necessarily, moving the needle quite as much. Now, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, the strength of this class is going to be on the defensive side of the football, and it is at the linebacker position. This is a really talented linebacker class, and the edge rusher position, and on the defensive line. It's really going to be about the trenches in this class and the linebacker position. The defensive backs not as strong in this particular class, but there is still a lot of talent out there. We're going to start to hear some names pop up throughout the combine process. Obviously, on the defensive side of the football, it's led by Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, Rueben Bain Jr. Those are the names at the top of the order. But as we move forward, I'll do more individual scouting reports and videos on some of the top names on the defensive side of the football. At the end of the day, per usual, the quarterback position is going to drive this draft class. who's going to declare, who's not going to declare. That will decide who's going to go at the top of the draft order, obviously, and who's not. It's going to push some high quality players backwards in this draft class. I really do think that there's a lot of teams in the draft order. Let's say the Tennessee Titans, for example, if they're picking number 1 overall, they're going to have the ability to trade back. They're going to have the ability to pick up a ton of draft capital to give up that number 1 overall pick, depending on which quarterbacks early declare in the 2026 NFL draft. I think they have a lot to gain. There's a couple of other teams out there that if they are in that top 5, will have that ability. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on as we lead up to things. There's going to be a lot of speculation going on as this draft class kind of, builds itself towards who's going to declare and who doesn't. Once we get to the point of, who is declaring and who's not declaring, obviously that's going to help us make more definitive decisions on who should be ranked where and what this thing's going to look like. But it is starting to clear up a little bit. We're starting to get a better idea of what this draft class is going to look like. But at the end of the day, I want to know what you, the viewer, thinks of this 2026 NFL draft class. Who is your top prospect or your favorite breakout name that we should all be talking about or keeping an eye on? Who do you think is the QB1 in this draft class as well? Is it Fernando Mendoza, Simpson, Dante Moore? Who should be the top prospect? As I mentioned, I still have Caleb Downs number 1 overall, while others are moving Arvell Reese to the top because he's looking more and more like a Micah Parsons style player. Or should it be Rueben Bain Jr.? Let me know in the comments section your thoughts. Once again, I want to say thank you for watching. We couldn't do any of this without you. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay locked in for more NFL draft content.